Hong Kong always hits the highs and lows, and it was on a particularly strong high. Every international school in Hong Kong was full to bursting point. And because of the lack of senior schools, parents were making decisions much earlier than they might have done otherwise. We decided that as an interim, we could run years 7 and 8, which would allow transfer to UK at common entrance entry. And one application just shone. And I looked through these various applications. They were good, solid people, but there was one from within Hong Kong who had been part of a startup in Beijing, so brought all that knowledge of startups with them, had been on a senior management team of that school, was now within Hong Kong, working within a community that wasn't so dissimilar to ours. He knew about expectations of parents in Hong Kong. And I mean, I to this day think that Kellett's been sprinkled with fairy dust at every point in its development. Because to find someone who is willing to take the risk on the promise of a school that has no site, not its complete funding, 17 children.
There was Elizabeth Everett. She was appointed from the UK. Jackie Hills, she was already in Hong Kong. We were the secondary school specialists, if you like. That was our background. And then we were supplemented by some of the staff from the Port Folam primary campus to provide subjects where we needed that. So, for example, art, PE, IT, etc.
It was really important those years working in Port Folam to really develop and understand what Kellett meant, and that Kellettness, we always talk about Kellettness, but what it meant so that we could take and adapt and develop that.
And then we were called to a meeting at the EDB, and they said they were aware that we were struggling or beginning. We couldn't have taken any more children at Port Folam. We'd been pressing them for a temporary site, and they said there was the St Mark's, the old St Mark's Secondary School at Shok Kee Wan, and this site had been totally vandalised and trashed. Then they said to us, but we'd like to ask you something. Will you share it with Carmel School, which became Elsa High School? And then the next thing that happened was this site came up. I'd been spending most weekends walking around Hong Kong with a backpack, trying to find old unoccupied sites that we might possibly be able to. And Kowloon Bay was a new one on me, but I knew Megabox, and parked the car at Megabox, walked around here, and this was a car park. But we had this missing 300 million. And it was in that beautiful room at the top of the HSBC. He said, so let's get this straight. You've come to us for a loan, you've got no capital, you've only got part of your funding, and basically it's just the reputation of the school that you're here today to push. And on the basis of that, you would like us to loan to you. And we just thought, yeah, that's what we like. And then they, at the end of the meeting, they concluded and said, if you can come back to us in 60 days with half your funding, we will approve the loan. And I've got a feeling that we were back in the bank in 6 weeks to say it's in place, here it is, here's the figures. All the pieces of the jigsaw in place. And we went to a particular school just by the Blackwell Tunnel called the Oasis Academy. And Simon was with me, as was Eric Krantz, our project director. This design was just amazing. And they had a central atrium with the classrooms radiating off around it. And it was in the middle of an industrial estate, so it was, you know, very similar setting to this. And the idea was that the whole school looked inward.
One of the foundational kind of principles for this campus was to design it so that everyone is seen all the time. Very few places where students can hide away and not be seen. And so that helps keep high expectations up, good behaviour up.
I mean, it showed great vision that I was employed 2 years ahead of time in order to be ready. So I was the designate head of a campus that was yet to exist. So I was based at Port Fulham, and the idea was that whilst also working on project things to do with the setup of this campus, I was also being somewhat Kellettized to really understand what it is that Kellett is about and how could I replicate that at another location. Without the necessary history behind me, it would have been really difficult to do that.
So there was massive recruitments because we were bringing in 40 staff at a time. It was about these large tranches of new, very able teachers, but saying to them, hey, you know, this isn't a new school. This is building on an existing school and an ethos.
With Kellett, we were growing 1 year after another. So Kellett students were coming out of the preps into the secondary and then rolling year on year on year. So students coming in from outside, we had them, but the majority of the students, the core of the students, had been through the Kellett primary school, the Kellett prep school, so they knew the Kellett way. So that was really important, and it made it much easier to maintain that love of learning, confidence for life, and that Kellett ethos, keep it strong.
So I can remember the few weeks leading up to the opening date, we had our brushes out, we were cleaning, we were setting up classrooms, we were up to our knees in grime and all sorts, but it was a lot of fun because we did it together and we all worked together as a team.
No matter how good your building is, you can have the best building in the world, but if you don't have a cohesive community in it that shares the vision, basically you've got nothing.
You sort of pinch yourself to sit in this beautiful place and to look around this lovely campus and to think about the tiny acorn that it sort of grew from. The community that is created through Kellett is special, I think, because, if you like, we've all been very well aware of our limitations. We don't have a government behind us. We don't have a franchise behind us. We don't have corporate or other interests that are providing us with a safety net. We've just got us.